Mountains will melt under him, and the valleys will split like wax before the fire, like waters poured down a steep place. Hi, I'm Dr. Daniel Flores, and welcome to my blog, Breaking Bad Religion. We're on location today at the Octopus Car Wash, otherwise known as the A1 Car Wash from the series, here in Albuquerque. We're at the very foothills of the Sandia Mountains, and we'll talk about the mountains a little later on. Walter White started off working part-time here, and as you know in the series, later on he purchased the car wash to use as a money laundering operation. Of course, his full-time job was a high school chemistry teacher, and I might say an overqualified one. And so much of the script plays off of his chemistry background. In fact, all the rational arguments come out of his understanding of the world through chemistry. There's an important line where Walt tells his students, technically, chemistry is the study of matter, but I prefer to see it as a study of change. Indeed, change, particularly Walt's rapid change into the Heisenberg persona, is what makes Breaking Bad such an interesting drama. Although his frequent forays into the elements of the periodic table or detailed molecular science dazzle, it's the four classical elements of matter, earth, wind, fire, and water, which figure the most prominently in the storyline. In his first experience of killing, Walt struggles with his crossing the moral line. So he flashes back to a grad school memory where he analyzed the chemical composition of the human body. Walt concludes that the nature of man is merely a sum of earth elements, though the numbers suggest that something is missing. His partner, Gretchen Schwartz, wonders whether this could be the soul. Walt dismisses this, saying, "The soul? There's nothing but chemistry here." If we follow his reasoning to a logical conclusion, then human life is no longer sacred, and the existence of God is highly questioned. This means there's no moral barriers, and exploiting vulnerable people or taking a human life is just another chemical reaction. Well, strange as it seems, it's not far removed from the situation of ancient Israel and Judah. The people had turned away from serving the Lord God, Yahweh, to serve the pagan idols where prostitution was the norm, and the moral high ground of the Jewish law of Moses was no longer important. In fact, the poor were abused and neglected, and so morality and holiness were no longer seen as the foundation of society for ancient Israel and Judah. And this was a terrible thing, of course. So the prophet Micah, whose name means "who is like God," reminds the earth that God has something to say about unacceptable behavior. He tells them that their sickness is incurable, and gifts will be given to cover the lie, and they'll have to shave their heads because of the upcoming captivity. Now, this is probably the most obvious parallel with the character Walter White, but it goes on. The fire and water elements here are present, where the prophet says the mountains will melt in him, and the valleys will be split like wax before the fire, like waters poured down a steep place. The respected Jewish commentary Rashi reminds us that pouring waters evoke the image of tears of lament. Here is where the fictional and ancient stories converge in the most poignant contemporary reality. Here in New Mexico, we have the highest rates of drug addiction as any place in the nation. Alcohol and drug-related deaths are highest here than any place in the nation. And most at risk are teens and adult Hispanic and Native American males. The New Mexico Department of Health is doing their best to address these issues, but I think something is missing from the equation. Where is the soul? Where is the church in the dialogue? Maybe we spent too much time pursuing our own idols, institutional programs with little or no socially redeeming qualities. We cannot blame everything on the church, of course. But it's clear to me that we're not doing enough to address human suffering, especially here in Albuquerque. There's more than chemistry here. As people of faith, we can begin to acknowledge the presence of precious souls who are suffering and in need of God's grace and human compassion. I think the church has something to say. I'm Dr. Daniel Flores, Senior Pastor of the United Methodist Church here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I'll see you next time.